Hey everybody, welcome back to another movie review. Hope you guys been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. Uh, let's just hop right into this one because I have some thoughts on it, some pretty passionate thoughts, I must say. Because this movie reminded me of two things. One of them I really like, and the other one not so much. That film that we're talking about today is Falcon Lake, which was, I believe, yeah, written, right? No, actually, just directed by Charlotte Laban, who is in her directorial debut, uh, and tells the story of a 13-year-old boy and their family as they go off on vacation, and they, yeah, I guess they settle with another family, some relatives or something like that, and they have a daughter who named Chloe, who is very closed off, and she's minds to herself. The boy and the girl get equated, and eventually a love of sorts is blossomed their from their interactions. Um, Now, as I said up front, the movie reminded me of two things. Um, and one of these things I wish it was, and the other it chooses to be, I just don't like. Those two films are this. So, when it started off, it reminded me a little bit of Let the Right One In. It sets up like this mysterious girl, there's that romantic angle and the horror of it, because there are suggestions to that of a horror film, but that's placed more in the background, and at points is kind of brought up to the forefront, so more or less when we get to the end of the film. Um, but what the film actually reminded me a lot more of was Bodies, 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 which I was not a fan of because um, very similar to this, it's very pumped with with cultural influence, specifically that of the Gen Z crowd. So it's like the party hard, slang, stupid behavior essentially. Um, it loves to dive into that sort of mentality, and when you understand that culture and you understand just how those people are, how self-destructive they are, um, your your real care for the situation really starts to really just fade, because it sets itself up, I think, actually uh, rather interesting. Like aesthetically, it's very pleasing. I love the look of the film, especially at points when we get to, as the title suggests, when we get to the lake. Like, it looks really nice. I think it has like a calming touch to it, particularly with its score. I like that. It has more of it feels more informative of the situation when there's um, when we stray away from that influence, from that cultural influence. Um, but that's rare, So because most times when you're watching the film, it is, just heavily involved in that sort of influence, and you get characters that are ultimately creating the drama for themselves, and the movie hopes that you'll invest into that stupidity and believe in that circumstance. Like, basically, the movie hopes it to what Bodies was hoping. It kind of hopes that you're as stupid as the characters are, and that you can invest into this circumstance and not think much of it, because the love that is formed here is not really love. It's absolutely toxicity. It's also blinding, because that's one of the fundamentals about the film, is about blindness. And to some measure, I think the film itself knows this, um, but they represent the girl as something of a good person. I don't see that. She's very intrusive. She's very insufferable, obnoxious, very self-destructive. Like, she has an obsession over drowning herself, and of just drowning in general. Um, and that then leads to other things that the film addresses that is quite frank. Like there's ideas of suicidal ideation. There's obviously a great emphasis on loneliness and the the desperation for acceptance. Um, that those ideas are present, and it's it's blatant. Like it once the film establishes these characters, but then you have a whole hour of like dragging this love on, and if you are level-headed, you'll see that this relationship is just it's just not what it is. I mean, she's just using the boy for her own interest. She's grooming him into her lifestyle, which is basically, hey, I feel like a piece of shit, so why don't you, come along for the ride, because I need someone else to feel the way I feel. Um, like it's I really didn't care for the characters because of the culture that it's utilizing. It thinks that culture is sound, and that they're fine, they're cool, or they're just they're just they're doing their own thing. It's just it's just how they are. Um, and to some extent, like the mentality of it all, like it feels like it's operating with a because I looked into it, and apparently it was directed by someone a lot older. I was thinking it was going to be like someone in their 20s, but apparently she is like near her 40s. Because to some measure it feels like it acts like a music video that was made by someone in their 20s as of today, and like it has that stench. It has that distinct like stench that I get when I see the Gen Z sort of stuff. And I'm not a fan of how it smells. Like it's just not something that I jive with. So because I think that that's ultimately the deciding factor when watching Falcon Lake, is that depending on your view of that culture, you might the characterizations might be appealing, or it might, in my opinion, just very very annoying and very very stupid. Like you know, and it's not to say that the film is without some uh, merit elsewhere. Like I said, aesthetically, it's very pleasing. Like I love because there's a running idea of ghosts throughout the film, which I think is ultimately a moot point when we get to the end. Because I know what the ghosts represent. I get it. It's meant to represent all the ideas that we've established: suicidal ideation, loneliness, blindness. Like this drive to be accepted. I understand that. I understand what that ghostly thing is meant to represent. Um, but but I know I'm going off track. But I just want to bring up a little bit about that whole thing I'm talking about with the ghost. Spoilers for Falcon Lake, because I just need to bring this up. There's a thread that's brought up in the film about a boy drowning in the lake, and I thought that would have paid off in a different way. Instead, it doesn't pay off at all, because um, the boy that we follow ends up dying, and it tries to like bind, some. It tries to create heft by bringing out shock value, and it's like it does nothing to the story at all. There's no reason for that boy to be dead, And then at the very end, it's like that. It's like, oh, can't she see him? This and that. It's like we know what you're trying to say. It's like you've said it like 15 times already. Like it takes a dead person to spot a dead one. It's like I get it. I get what the movie's trying to talk about. It's the same stuff being rattled on. As I said, I think that you have to be pretty dumb to not understand what's going on. So, and it's like, the movie is hoping that you don't bear some kind of intelligence, similar to the vein of bodies. So, but back to what I was saying though about the aesthetics, I think that something that I thought was really cool about the visuals was that anytime that they entered like any dark areas in the frame, I really liked how like the darkness engulfs them. Like the darkness kind of acts like fog, I found that stuff interesting. And like to an extent, like where they shoot the film, like in some points in sometimes in the forest, sometimes in the lake, like there's kind of a fairy tale like quality to it. As I said, that's why it kind of reminded me of Let the Right One In to a certain extent, because it has those whispers of like a fairy tale or something of like a um, um, of like a Romeo Juliet or something of along those lines. Um, like a classic type of romance such scenario, um, or I'm trying to say it's like it has like that fairy tale like quality to it. Ultimately, I was straying too far for what I was trying to get at, um, but I think that it bears some technicalities that are interesting, um, but I just think that it's not a film that has much to say. It establishes what it is within 20-30 minutes, and then there's a whole hour of the movie like just regurgitating the same message over and over and over and over again. And then it does what it does with at the end, and it's just a moot point. It's like there's nothing more to it. It's as if the movie is going, um, it's like it's looking at its audience in the face and saying, "Hey, uh, just in case you guys hadn't got it yet, here's what the movie's about." Like that's ultimately my camera just decided to focus in on this thing right here. Hello, there we go. That might help. But hopefully you guys can still hear me. Um, but yeah, it's I think that it operates more on the mentality of like bodies, bodies, bodies than it does with Let the Right One In, and that's unfortunate because what you get is something that is a lot like the characters, something that kind of devolves versus evolves, and I just found it more annoying than appealing. I didn't really jive with the characters, and um, the drama that is there is not drama that is understanding. It's just stupid people doing stupid things. Like at one point when the boy, tells the guy like, "Oh yeah, I've had sex with her," and then he hasn't had sex with her. It's like that's not drama. That's not stuff that's like, "Oh my god, what's going on?" That's just kid stuff. It's like, high school crap. It's like I don't that's not stuff that's actual drama. That's just kids being kids. Kids with like having really no problems of any sort, you know. So I don't know. I really didn't care for the mentality of the film. I just found it more and more annoying, and to a certain extent, I feel like the movie knows that. Like I feel like it is making a comment on that, addressing this insufferable, those insufferable like qualities. Um, but I think ultimately it's trying to represent it in a more understanding fashion, and I just don't see it. I see this group of this culture as like very destructive, and like I would not be around that girl at all. I would I would immediately just turn around and walk away. It's like I don't want to associate myself with you ever. You have you have a lot of issues you need to deal with, and um, yeah, I don't want to be around for that. So especially if it's involving stuff like that's you know like hard stuff like suicidal type stuff. It's like I just yeah. Um, and then one more thing also that someone I read up on before I did the review is that um, someone brought up a good point about I'm not sure how old these actors are. I presume they are as old as the film says they are. Um, and there are sequences that just feel strange. At one point, the girl is like the girl's doing stuff sexually that's just odd. like she's humping a pillow at one point, and then another point she's like showing off her boobs. Like, I mean, that's the French, I guess, but but I mean, because the French the French don't care. They're just like, we're just gonna, you know, we're gonna use whatever element we can to represent our our themes. But I don't know. I felt that was a little inappropriate. If she is in fact the age that the movie says she is, if she is 16, you know, and then she has sex with a 19-year-old, you know, or at least they imply that there's a relationship that she has with like a 19-year-old boy, um, you know, like it's stuff like that. It's just like, is this where am I supposed to like this character? She's just despicable. She's a very like she's a character that I just do not care about. It's a character that I want to get away from, you know. Um, so yeah, so so I think that to some measure it understands that and it's trying to make a comment that about the toxicity portions. I think that it does understand that, but ultimately I think that it's leaning more on a general, you know, um, observation, of loneliness and that need for acceptance. Um, but it's very knowing, like it's just you just know, like you just understand in like 20 minutes time what's going on. The movie doesn't have more to comment on after that. It looks nice. Like I like how it looks. And um, I don't mind the influence of the culture, but if that is the driving force, it makes the characterizations more annoying than understanding. And I just wanted to get away from them the more I was around them. So yeah, I'm not really a fan of how the movie smells. I'll just put it that way. I'm not a fan of how the movie smells. I like how it looks. It looks great, but in terms of how it smells, yeah, it needs to you know needs to take a shower. You know, needs to clean itself up a little bit, and then maybe it might work a little bit more because there's definitely potential in how it's like set up and all that stuff. Um, but I just don't think that the usage of the Gen Z's mentalities and that influence being the overarching factor, and the whole thing about the movie, how it's like driven. Um, I don't think that it worked in its favor. I think that it just made it more um, harder to sit through. So. So yeah, so those are my thoughts on Falcon Lake. I mean I don't hate it, but I just I don't have much of a desire to revisit it either. So um you know so yeah, it has some redeeming qualities, but not enough to win me over. So yeah, so those are my thoughts. You guys let me know your thoughts on Falcon Lake if you guys have seen it. Let me know in the comment section below. And yeah, that's going to be it for me, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.